Conquistadors. Oh, hello, friends. It's finally time. They're finally here. The Conquistadors from Wargames Atlantic. Long awaited, long anticipated, and now, finally, we are going to get a chance to take a look at what's inside of this fun little box. I'm going to hit the lights right quick here. Maybe get a little bit more light on the situation. So, these wonderful models made by Wargames Atlantic, 24 multi-part hard plastic 28mm figures. They're designed primarily to be, conquistadors, and they're kind of part of a paired set along with the Aztecs, which also just came out for WGA. But the cool thing about them is that they have a lot of potential for use in other game systems as other kind of Renaissance European infantry. So this is my first time that I'm going to be giving a look at this box. I've been watching a little bit kind of in the Wargames Atlantic weekly updates and stuff like that about the progress that's on there. So I've seen the sprues a little bit. I'll be perfectly frank, I can't remember the sprue layout perfectly from the images that I've seen. But obviously we have images here of some of the completed figures both on the back and on the front, and you can see that there's a variety of different kinds of poses that you're going to be able to get out of the box, including sword and shield, two-handed sword, spear. I mean, they call it pike, but I mean, come on guys, is that 18 feet tall? I don't think so. Handgunners, musicians, full command options, crossbows, and halberds. So a lot of versatility there. I know that particularly the two-handed swords here are a sticking point for some of my friends because, historically speaking, that's not a conquistador weapon. But I think that everyone kind of knows that one of the big draws of this box is that you are going to be able to use its models to make state troops, or kind of the equivalent for Age of Sigmar, Warhammer Fantasy, Warhammer Armies Project, Ninth Age, all that good stuff. And that's personally what my primary interest in this box is as well. I'm very deep into Warhammer Armies Project. I'm loving it so far. I've got a huge army that I'm painting up for it that are Dogs of War. And so these guys have a lot of potential. So, no further ado, stickers are still on this thing. You are seeing this for the first time with me, friends. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. There we go. So in typical Wargames Atlantic fashion, no bases. You're going to be left to your own devices to figure out what those are going to look like for you. And we've got, usually it's a handful of different sprue layouts, kind of in triplicate, duplicate, quadruplicate, whatever that situation is. And so in this case, that looks like this is going to be your main frame for most of the weapon options and for the bodies. And let's clear off and get a little bit more distinction there. For your conquistadors, and then you have a frame over here which has additional head options, bucklers, additional weapon options, that kind of stuff. So let's take a look-see here. So in the primary frame, you can see there's the back, here's the front. You have 6 models to each of these sprues, and so 6 times the 4 that you get in there, that's 24 bodies. And they have a variety of different body sculpts. So you have what looks like cloth armor brigandine type situation, full or half plate, I suppose, on this guy here with the fancy socks. Quilted armor on this gent right here, another one of the plate options. So a good bit of variety there. And with the fact that you have what looks like two of each kind of like armor type throughout the set, with 4 of those, you'll be able to get 8 of a given look if that's what you're keen on doing. So on top of that, we also have, let's take a look here. So different shield types. You've got the like metal, I don't want to call them rotolero, but like they can be used for rotoleros, that kind of thing, as well as everybody's favorite like bean shield, really good for your jinetes or other. So like if you want to be bespoke Spanish, that's a great option for you there. Crossbows, very cool. You have drums, another one of the little bean shields, and then we can take a look at the head options right quick. And so you have the kind of crested conquistador helm, which we all know and love, as well as a handful of other options that are less kind of distinctly Spanish in style. Obviously a goodly number of the ones that are very, very conquistador-like. So that's fun. Here down on the opposite side of the sprue, you have, whoop, focus, shield arms, each of which has the full flat right there so that you can put a shield on very snug. More of those head options. Pretty cool. And then some of the arms. And we'll briefly take a look at weapon options here as well. So you have handguns. Nice. Looks like there are options for 4 of those. So, 4 out of the 6 gents here could be packets of black powder. Over here, swords. So the combination of sword and shield looks like there's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. Again. Okay, so you are going to have to do a little bit of variety here. You can't necessarily do all of a type, which is important to note. But 4 for 6 isn't bad. And then halberds, kind of chunky looking fellas. I don't hate that. Standard here. We saw the drum earlier, so that's neat. And then it looks like there are 2 crossbows. Oh, 3. This is an interesting one. It probably locks in with another bit somewhere on there. So maybe 3 crossbows. Cool. Let's take a look at the... Get this out of the way. Specialist or special weapons and other heads frame. First off, just taking a look at the other heads here. There's some fun ones. I really like these hat options, which can definitely throw off a Landsknecht, or you could even maybe make an argument for something like Papal Guard vibe. Just more like non-bespoke Western European helms. This gent here just has the hood, the cloth over his head. Love the beards. That's really doing it for me. Look at that. And then you get a lot of pike options on this one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 spears / pikes. I think that they are like theoretically differentiated from one another, but honestly, in terms of the size of them, they are almost identical. So I don't think that anyone's going to get on your case for calling them all pikes if you're trying to do a pike block of some kind, as well as 4 bucklers, which are always fun. That's very cool. Anything to note here? So 1, 2 Zweihandes or 2-handed swords. They don't have the fun like curvature that you would see on some Zweihandes, and I think that's partially to be a little bit less region specific, or a little bit less. Oh, it's definitely Landsknechts. But 2, and so you get a total of 8 of them in the box. So that's neat. Very cool. And then of course you get your little secondary like side swords and stuff like that. Nice. Well, that's fun. Any other notes just off the hop here? So I'll say that one of the things that I'm noticing like immediately, right, is the fact that the puddles on these bases, and Wargames Atlantic does typically do like the puddle style at the bottom of the feet for their models. These are a lot thinner than some of the ones that I've seen in the past. Maybe I have something floating around here that I can use as a point of comparison. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. Who's to say? Well. I thought I had one of the late Roman infantry hanging out around here somewhere, but it doesn't look like I do. But I think that these are very noticeably slimmer than the other offerings from Wargames Atlantic in terms of the puddle, as well as a lot of other historical miniatures producers. So what I'm going to do right quick is I'm going to build one of these little guys up, and then I'm going to slap him on a 20mm square and show you a little bit of a size comparison in terms of the height between these guys. So be right back. Make the magic happen. Bring my plastic boy to life. Just a sec. We're back, and this is my man's. We've got some stuff to talk about with regards to these gents. Overall, super easy to put together, like ridiculously so. This was no problem at all. And honestly, as far as like the options that I chose for clipping out from the frame, not too bad. I haven't cleaned up like the little like bits of flash here, the connection points, but those will clean up easily enough as well. So, just in terms of like sculpt quality and the clarity of detail, this guy is awesome. He looks great. There's a little bit of wonkiness going on, both in terms of like individually just looking at this guy, and then also comparing him to other models that you might be using in whatever kind of line of toy soldiers that you're using for an army. So first off, and you guys can probably already see this, the puddle here is like well over the edge of my 20mm base. It's kind of annoying, especially considering how close to the edge the feet are. I don't think that it's a deal breaker. I think that you can trim that back. It's just something that you're going to have to do to get them to especially rank up well in the systems where rank and flank is what you're going for. I will say, so in terms of scale, so here we have focus. Here we have my friend from Wargames Atlantic, and here you have a metal model from the Assault Group, which is their 28mm Renaissance Italians. When you bear in mind the fact that the puddle on this guy is significantly bigger than on the other one, they actually kind of look appropriately scaled. Like they're right about where they would want to be, where they would need to be in order to look like fluid as a unit, and that's really cool. A huge amount of my Dogs of War army is Assault Group medals, so this is great for me, for Chris. Areas where it gets a little bit weird. So this is comparing our friend here to what I think is probably another kind of like standard historical. If you're going to be playing Empire and you're looking for alternative models, it's a go-to, which is the Warlord Landsknecht. This guy's in full plate, so he doesn't quite have the poofy sleeve situation going on for him. But like you can see almost immediately that these dudes do not look like they hang out. In terms of height, and most importantly in terms of proportions. So this guy is definitely like 28mm heroic. You can see that his head relative to his torso, like they're almost the same size. Whereas the Wargames Atlantic dude here is closer to like 28. He looks, at least with this head, closer to like 28mm true. Which is fascinating. That's not something that I anticipated to see in this box. But it's definitely, I mean, when they're ranked up next to each other in file on a movement tray at a distance, there's going to be no issue here whatsoever. It's just kind of weird, like, looking at them face to face in terms of comparisons. And that could be that this guy is just smaller than normal. Maybe he's, technically speaking, like, closer to the 25-something train. I don't think so, though. So that's just an interesting point there. And it does mean that the proportions on the Wargames Atlantic, sorry for the shake there, I bumped the tripod. The Wargames Atlantic dude are more realistic. Like, he looks more right. But in terms of that realism, another funny thing that I noticed is the fact that these swords are small compared to most fantasy swords. Like, they're real little. And this is another, like, Assault Group model in terms of, I mean, I guess they can be, like, you can say they're short swords, they're something, I don't know. They look noticeably little compared to other things, especially when compared to, and I'm sorry that I don't have an Empire model handy for this conversation, but these guys are going to be in my army for Dogs of War. So, oh boy, here they are. So, when these guys stand next to each other, pretty close. I'd say that this is admirable in terms of like scale comparisons. So that's awesome. Oh, goodbye, Shadow Warrior. You'll be missed. The point where they do not measure up similarly is definitely in the sword department. So, you know, take that for what it's worth. I don't think that it's going to have any like major impact on gameplay. I think that the value of this box is still incredible. It's just kind of something to be aware of when you go into purchasing the box and like you see, well, it's got a dinky sword. You know, it's fine, especially considering what you're getting. Which is a lot of value in a nice box. Other notes that I would make, I hate that I have to say this again. Wargames Atlantic, hear my plea. If you make another spear with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 connection points, I'm going to scream. They're a pain to clean up. These are a little bit thicker than some of the other spears that WGA has put out in the past. But like for the Persians, I had stuff that was just snapping on the sprue, not because I'm going berserk and attacking it with a pair of clippers, but just because like my tactical abilities in terms of how I navigate these various contact points are limited, and occasionally I will clip the wrong wire and the spear will just break in half. I don't think that based on like how robust these pikes and spears are that's going to be a problem here, but it is a real pain when it comes to cleaning these things up after the fact. Oh gosh, just look at that. 5 on the spear. Guys, there has to be a better way. Now you're going to tell me, but Chris, it's that kind of decision-making that allows them to pack so much goodness into one box, and I get it. I just wish that it wasn't so tedious in terms of cleaning up those. I mean, lucky for me, right? Like, I'm doing just the swords and shields for pretty much the entirety of this, minus command, but boy, oh boy. That's unfortunate. I really can't see any other wonky connection points, and this is mostly for just, the fiddly wargamers among you, but the space under the puddles in order to get your clippers in, those are a little bit wider than they have been in the past, as far as I can see, on some WGA products. So, like, no more really struggling to jam your clippers in between the sprue connection points to get those clipped off. So that's nice. The backs of the shields are just flat. This is another thing. It's a small quibble, but it's worth noting. You shouldn't. Hopefully, your men are brave, and their enemy will never see the backs of their shields. But just a consideration. I don't think that means that the offering's low quality by any means. It's just a little thing that I noticed. Anything else that I saw? Not really. I do think that this is a tremendous, lovely kit. And I'm very, very excited that they are readily accessible, affordable, and something that I'm going to be able to look forward to using to supplement my my Dogs of War in the future. If you were thinking about starting a Nostalgia army for Warhammer Armies Project, if you're looking for some Empire models with a little bit of flair, if you're looking for some lovely historicals to, combine with the Aztecs range that they just put out to do some New World shenanigans, I think that this is a home run across all of those bases. Yeah, great job, Wargames Atlantic. Can't wait for those Lance Connect ogres. They'll pair up very nicely here. I'm going to close this out by just doing a couple more size comparisons because people are interested in them. So here's our little bud. Again, here is a North Star figurine, one of their Frostgrave line. I end up using them for wizards and characters fairly frequently. So, as you can see, a little bit taller, even with the puddle size difference there. But I think that the scale is close enough to true. Give the people what they want. I don't know. Here's a 25 millimeter Haradrim warrior. With the hunch over, like, and these models for Lord of the Rings are scaled more appropriately, less heroic scale. So you can see the proportions are similar on both of those guys, even if the size. This guy's just a little bit scaled down overall. What else do we have handy? We've already seen the elf. Why not? This is how he compares to Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan has the high ground. All right, friends. That's going to be it for this one. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully you found some bits of information that were helpful. If you have any questions about the box that I didn't answer here, or any stills that you'd like to see or something like that, just give me a shout. Drop something in the comments below, and I'd be happy to let you know. Otherwise, thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate you coming here and checking some fun stuff out with me, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye!